All right, so get this. I was listening to this podcast, Designing Your Destiny.
Okay.
And it really like flipped my thinking on how storytelling and design, like they connect, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I can see that.
So it really got me thinking,
Interesting.
what was it about? So the speaker, James, he's a UI UX designer, right?
Okay.
And he was talking about how he was really struck by this quote from Tyrion Lannister from Game of Thrones.
Oh, wow.
What unites people? Armies, gold, flags, stories.
Right.
There's nothing in the world more powerful than a good story.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard that one before, but
I love that quote. It's so true.
it's so true. And I feel like it's so relevant
Absolutely.
to design because, you know,
Holy.
stories have this power to like, I feel like we forget what people say, but we remember how they make us feel.
That's true.
And like good design does that too, right?
100%. Yeah.
Creates a feeling, an experience.
It's true. Yeah. And that's why I think like a well-crafted user journey is kind of like a gripping novel.
It is.
You know, it pulls you in, takes you on a journey,
Totally.
and then leaves you feeling something at the end.
Yes.
Each interaction, each screen, it's like a chapter moving the story forward.
That's such a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not even just like websites or anything.
Right.
He was talking about designing for a nonprofit.
Okay.
And like initially he was all about making the website like just really visually appealing, which I think we all can identify with. But then his mentor was just kind of like, but what's the story we're telling here?
Such a good question.
And it totally changed his approach
Yeah.
to the whole thing.
He makes you think about it differently, for sure.
Yeah, and it's like you're moving beyond just the aesthetics, right?
Exactly.
It's about thinking of the narrative, the why behind the design.
The cool, yeah.
And then suddenly you're not just placing elements on a page.
Yeah.
You're crafting this whole experience.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you know what? That's when he was like, oh, each design element can actually be like a chapter in the story.
Right.
Like, for example, a hero image.
Yeah.
That's your opening scene.
That's it. Yeah.
Setting the mood, grabbing your attention.
Totally. Or even just like,
Yeah.
think about call to action buttons. They're not just buttons, they're like plot points.
Totally.
You know.
Urging the user to take action.
Yeah, to move the story forward.
To keep going.
Even something like a 404 error page.
Oh my gosh. Yep.
It can be part of the narrative.
Which is so funny because designing a 404 page is usually such a chore.
I know.
But he makes it sound fun.
Right.
It's like the comic relief scene in a tense movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it, I think.
It is.
By reframing design as storytelling, it's like you unlock this whole new level of creativity and intentionality.
Totally.
It's not just about functionality anymore.
Right.
It's about crafting an experience that like resonates on a deeper level.
Totally. Totally. It makes you realize like how much storytelling we actually encounter every day in design, even if we don't like consciously, you know, realize it.
It's true.
Yeah.
Like even how a logo evolves
Oh, yeah.
over time.
Totally.
That's storytelling.
It is.
It's not just like a random redesign.
Right.
It's reflecting often like the brand's journey,
Yeah.
their growth, their story so far.
Or even like just using an app, you know?
Yeah, totally.
Like a well-designed app. It's like the user flow just guides you so seamlessly toward like, what you want to do.
Yeah.
It's almost like they've preempted the story you're going to tell with that app, you know?
It's like they've mapped out your user story before you even start using it,
Exactly.
which is kind of cool.
It is really cool.
Yeah.
And it goes back to that Tyrion quote. You know how he was saying like stories unite people? James realized design can do that too.
Yeah.
Like in the real world.
It can, like a well-designed campaign or something.
Totally.
Even something as simple as like a website can really rally people around a cause, you know?
It's like that old saying,
Yeah.
a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Right.
But it's like, instead of a picture, it's
Design. Design.
Saying.
Yes.
100%.
It's so true.
Or think about how, like, intuitive interfaces can make technology accessible to almost anyone.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it can really empower people who might otherwise
Yeah.
feel excluded from technology, you know?
Totally.
Which I think is really cool.
And even like good branding.
Oh, yeah.
Which is something we kind of just take for granted.
Can really foster a sense of community.
Yeah.
It's like design is a force for good.
It is. It's like design for
Positive change.
Positive change. Yes.
Totally.
Which is a really cool way to think about it.
Yeah.
But it also kind of made me wonder about, like, the responsibility that
Yeah.
comes with that kind of influence.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Because design can be very persuasive.
100%. Yeah.
Right.
It's very persuasive.
And it has the power to influence, like,
Totally.
our choices, our behaviors.
Our choices, our behaviors. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, you know,
Mhm.
we're all holding these really powerful tools, and we have to be really mindful of how we use them.
100%. It's about wielding that influence
Right.
thoughtfully, you know?
Yeah.
It's about authenticity.
Yeah.
Because you can totally tell when a design is trying to, like,
Oh, yeah.
manipulate you.
Totally. Like, you can spot a phony a mile away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when a design feels genuine, when it feels
Mm.
aligned with your values, that's when the real magic happens.
Totally. It's like you're connecting with the story,
Right.
but also the storyteller, you know,
So
on some level.
And speaking of storytellers,
Yeah.
James had this really interesting closing thought.
What was that?
He was saying, in the grand story of your life and your career, you're both the author and the main character.
Wow.
Every design decision, every creative choice
Yeah.
is a sentence in your story.
Whoa, that's deep.
It's true.
It's like you're building your own, like, personal brand story.
Yeah.
One pixel at a time.
One pixel at a time.
I love that.
And what I think is so cool about that is it's not even just for, like,
Right.
designers.
Yeah.
It's like we're all making choices every day
Totally.
that contribute to this larger narrative.
It's like we're all telling our own stories, whether we realize it or not.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And that's, like, incredibly empowering
it is.
because it means we have the power to shape our own stories.
You do.
We get to decide what we want that story to be.
I love that.
Yeah.
So I think as we kind of, like, wrap up this deep dive into
Yeah.
the world of design and storytelling,
Yeah.
here's something I was thinking about.
What's that?
How can you use the power of storytelling,
Right.
even in small ways,
Totally.
to elevate your work?
It's a good question to ask yourself.
Yeah.
Whether you're working on a presentation or
Sure.
building a product or even just, like, interacting with your colleagues, you know?
Okay.
What's the story you want to tell?
What's the story you want to tell?
Because a good story has the power to connect, to persuade,
Yeah.
and ultimately to make a difference.
To make a difference, exactly.
No.
And who knows, you might just inspire someone
Totally.
to start writing their own amazing story.
That's it.
That's it for this deep dive. We hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, keep exploring.
Keep creating.
Keep creating, and most importantly,
Yes.
keep telling your story.
Tell your story.